Well, yesterday, as you well know, the Supreme Court hearing the election petition 2020 filed by former President John Mahama made a decision, and that was dismissing that petition brought forward and essentially affirming President Akufo-Addo as the president of Ghana. After that, and we've just played back what former President Mahama had to say. He said that as a decision, they are bound by what the Supreme Court has decided, but he disagreed with the processes and the ruling as well. Let's have a conversation in terms of how we intend forging ahead after the 2020 election petition. Most Reverend Dr. Paul K. Boafo is chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana. He joins us for a conversation. Good morning to you, sir. Also joining is George Amo, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council. We will also be joined by Professor Kwabena Safo Kantanka, Senior Research Fellow with Odikro, who's joining us via phone. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Marie. Good morning.
Great. Dr. Boafo, the Christian Council you put out a write-up. Are you still praying? You declared, I think, 3 days of prayers for the nation. Are you still praying, or that's ended?
Well, thank you very much. We are still praying. We are ending today. We started on Wednesday through to Friday, so it's ending this evening at 6 p.m. So we are still praying.
Okay. Was the petition part of it, or is all covered?
It was all covered. It was to do with national unity, peace, COVID, and all other issues that is troubling us. So the nation was on its knees to make sure that we sought the face of God in all that we're doing, so that we could come out of this as one people. And that is what we are doing.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for praying for the nation. On behalf of, I guess, the entire country, we're grateful. Let me also get some words from Mr. Amo. Mr. Amo, a lot of people, including the Peace Council, I guess, wanted a proper resolution of any misunderstandings from the presidential elections of 2020. And so you wanted the side that disagreed with the outcome to go to court. The court has made a decision. Do you have any plans in terms of how we carry on from here, particularly when we've heard former President John Mahama say that even though they are bound by the decision, they disagree with the process and the ruling?
Yeah, Mamavi, thank you, and thank JoyNews for having us once again. I think that we have done well as a people. Let me, on behalf of the chairman, the board, the staff of the Peace Council, to express gratitude to all the stakeholders in this petition, i.e. the petitioner, our former president, Mr. John Dramani Mahama. Let me thank the respondents. The first respondent, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jen Mensah. The second respondent, the President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, and of course the Supreme Court. I think on record time they've been able to resolve such a very difficult election petition within, I think, less than 3 months, which is good for all of us. I think that is how we want this country to be run. You remember, Mama V, on December 4th, the Peace Council, together with our key actors, partners, i.e. the IDEC, led by Dr. Akwete, the Chief Imam's Office, the National House of Chiefs, we brought together the second respondent and the petitioner to sign on to a peace pact. And one of the key areas we recommended to them to resort to the judicial process in the event that anyone disagrees with the election held on December 7th. So it was good and also in consonance with the plans and the document that they themselves have signed, to proceed to court in the event that they disagreed. So it was good that we saw the NDC taking the matter to court, and the Supreme Court also doing what they have to do to ensure we have the outcome that came up yesterday. So I think we are all happy, and it was very, very good for the former president to have come out clearly, to indicate that though he disagrees, he's bound by the outcome per the laws we have for our country, and also to indicate strongly that, he did not agree with some of the processes. That is okay. We as a council had already put in plans to sort of begin a healing process, because after going into a battle, so to speak, like this, you get some of your members obviously wounded, and it is proper for any peace institution such as ours, and I hope my presiding bishop, who is heading the Christian Council, they may also have plans. Together, I think we have to strategize how we can sort of heal some wounds that might have occurred in the course of this court proceedings. It is not easy at all, Mamavi. If you go through a contest and you come out, the way that it has happened, it is not easy. So I think as we do all this, those who have also won must also celebrate with, a sense of responsibility. And I think yesterday I didn't see too much. I slept early though, but we have to celebrate this with the sobriety, with humility, of course, so that we assure those who did not win that we have a country to run. That is the most important thing.
Okay. All right.
If the vanguard decides not to cooperate, it will be difficult for the winner to carry on with the responsibility of government.
Okay. I'll come to the other issue of the healing that you talk about, but let me go to Professor Kwabena Safo-Kantanka. Prof, are there any wounds to heal? Hasn't the court decided? Do we have to do anything more?
Thank you very much, Mama V, and for the opportunity. I think that, if you are talking about healing wounds, that is appropriate anyway. But let's come from the background of the law, as normally lawyers will say the law is an ass, that there's too much burden on the law. And that is to say that, there is no way that a lawyer will lose a case and will easily give up and say, yes, the decision was right. They will usually find excuses. But often when we go back to the point that every litigation must come to an end, then lawyers can always decide the next line of action, whether to pursue further or not. And so we do agree. And for me, we should be guided by the very principle that every litigation must come to an end. Exactly. So when we were going to court, it was obvious that at the end of the day, one party will have his day and the other will lose the case. So here we are. The Supreme Court has decided. We should be guided by certain things. When you have a 7-0 decision, then it gives room, very little or no room for criticisms of the court. Remember, if you compare with the 2013 decision, it was 5-4. And therefore, what it meant was that even the judges didn't agree on several issues. But this time around, all the judges do agree on almost all the issues that were sent to the court. So if we are guided by this, then we know that, yes, the court has taken a decision that they think is in the interest of the state. So what do? The parties, the losing party, must agree that, and I'm happy that President Mahama said that, yes, he disagrees, but he goes by the decision. Of course, that is the best way to go. And so for me, right now, as we speak, is a matter of going back and talking to the supporters, because usually there's always a common sense aspect of the law. When you sit back, you may think that, well, if you are thinking about things commonsensically, the case should have gone this way or that way. But you see, this is the law, and applying the law has several technicalities that those of us who are not lawyers will not understand. So when the decision comes out like this, it behoves us as followers of the law, as petitioners and whoever is involved, to decide and take a concrete decision to speak with supporters, because normally the problem comes from the supporters. Don't forget, this has political implications. And therefore, the one who took the matter to the court is likely to think that, well, if I don't say anything, my supporters are likely to think that, well, I knew that I even had a wrong case and all that. But when the decision has come out, let us speak with our supporters. Let us accept it and move on. Because, as I said, when it's a 7-0 decision, you can't even, when you even go for a review, you have almost a 99% chance of losing again. So there's no need. So for me, right now, what we have to do is to talk to our supporters. Everybody should calm down. Ghana first. We have to think about the life ahead of us. After all, just about 8 years ago, the same thing happened. We saw what happened. Nana Akufo-Addo leading the NPP expressed similar sentiments. Today, we are here. So you should think about the fact that there are more years ahead of us. There is more to this country than just this petition. So for me, it is a matter of accepting the decision of the court and moving on, and guided by the principle that every litigation must come to an end. So right now, all that we can do is to advise ourselves and advise the supporters for us to accept the decision and move on as a country. And I think, going around, if you monitor the atmosphere in Ghana, I think everything is quiet and we should not entertain any fears. And I think that is a sign of maturity that has come to us as a country. So for me, I don't think there's so much criticism about the decision, and therefore going forward is going to be very easy for us.
Yes, Prof, just stay with me. I want to engage my other panelists on that on this, and I want to start with Most Reverend. Most Reverend, Prof, thinks that there should be a conversation to the supporters so they can appreciate this decision, and the fact that the atmosphere seems smooth. There isn't anything happening in terms of any disagreement or heavy criticisms of the decision delivered yesterday. But again, what kind of wounds are we healing, and what's the strategy, Most Reverend?
Thank you very much. We believe that since they went to court and the ruling is out, the former president is saying that he is bound by the laws and the ruling, but he does not disagree. That is an aspect where we think that as the Christian Council, we can appeal to supporters, because if we don't agree, it means that we have some emotions, some sentiments that must be aired, that must be flared, that must come out. But how do we control these things? How do we do it? And that is where we think that we can bring such people to the table, talk to them. And that is where we are talking about supporters to be calm and to go through due process, so that we don't also go beyond what the ruling has given to us. So for the Christian Council or the Christian bodies, for all that we've started with as we began this process of the 2020 election was peace. And that is what we stand by, even at this time, that after this petition, let us continue to nurture peace for our nation, and let us all move on as one people with a common destiny.
Yeah, but Most Reverend, we appreciate the fact that the former president is entitled to have an opinion on the decision that was delivered. And he can go ahead and say that, I know I'm bound by it, but I disagree with the process. What is our fear? What can comments like that do to supporters?
Well, that's where, you see, the supporters will also have to come to terms with the peaceful process that he even started with, going to court and not taking the law into their own hands, and then causing confusion all over the place. But since we have due processes, we have the methods by which we can seek redress for our actions, that is the way we would always want it to go. So the supporters must be spoken to, so that in their little ways or in their corners, they might not also engage people in arguments which might be very unnecessary to cause some skirmishes in some places, because that is what will spark things. And so the supporters must also come to terms with it, that yes, we will approach all these things in a very peaceful, national cohesion manner.
Okay, Mr. George Amo, before this before the court procedures, you tried to visit as a peace council and have conversations with the NDC as a party in the elections. Is there something like that back on the table after the decision has been delivered to engage the party?
Yes, we are doing that. We've mapped out key influences in our politics, and we are trying to engage them. The Peace Council, we use quite a number of mechanisms in dealing with conflict prevention, management, and resolution. One of them is preventive diplomacy, shuttle mediation, etc.
But I remember the last time that you attempted doing that, it didn't go quite well, did it?
Oh, no, that is part of peace building. You are not going to get everything smooth. It is part of peace engagement. So we were not perturbed. We are still working out strongly to get this country, come to terms with itself and move on. I think I strongly agree with Most Reverend. We would have to put in all the mechanisms. We don't have to let anything our guard down at all. The vigilantism became a scary thing ahead of the last elections. And we were able to largely tame vigilantism during and after December elections. We are hopeful that we are going to do that once again. Like I've said, there are influences in our country. One of them is the Christian Council, the Ghana Pentecostal Council, the Christian and Charismatic Council, the Chief Imam's Office, our traditional rulers. I think that quickly, but they are all part of the constituency of the Peace Council. The Peace Council, we are composed of all these membership I've mentioned. So I want to just use even this medium and appeal to all of them, our constituents. Tomorrow, for example, is a church day. It will be very, very good if the Christian Council, for example, would issue a statement to all members, to appeal to their followers, to influence, because all of us, we belong to one family or the other. So if the church should issue a statement that will be read in all the churches tomorrow, for example, that please, the former president has said that he is bound by the laws of the country and the ruling of the Supreme Court. That is very critical. I mean, we can win a petition but disagree with the process. It can happen, and it does happen. So I think if we can carry the information to our followers, it will be very, very, very good. And we should start right now because we can't wait. I think Professor Safo Kantanka said it. We have to speak to the supporters, in fact, of both parties. Those who want not to provoke, do anything to provoke anybody. It can begin from a house, somebody's home. You tease a person, and it can result in anything. So the early warning signs we would as a PCC would alert people is that let us take this thing seriously. We don't have to allow any spark to begin before we say let us go and do firefighting. All of us, all influencing individuals and institutions in this country would have to begin from this morning, to talk to those that we can influence. And I think the NDC has a very huge responsibility as well as a party. Whatever it is, the leader has spoken. Let all our members know that we are bound by the decision of the highest court of the land. And let's comply. There are opportunities that will be gone. If today we don't win, let's wait and see what tomorrow will offer all of us. I think that is how we should approach this. As a peace institution, I can assure you in the next few days, you hear from the Peace Council, we are doing all that we can to deal with the polarization that has, been so, worrying for all of us. Anybody who is watching the political scene of the country now, in fact, we have identified the political polarization in this country as the most dangerous, threat to the peace and security of this country. And we are doing all that we can with all the resources available to us to ensure we are able to deal with this and the factors that are causing this.
Okay. So
that together, Ghana can remain very peaceful and make this country better for the children who are following us.
Okay. Professor Safo Kantanka, is there a deeper meaning to the words of former President Mahama when he says, I disagree with the process and I disagree with the ruling? Should we be interpreting it in any other way apart from just what on the surface it means?
Well, thank you very much. Well, of course, it has several shades of meaning. But before I come to that, let me add to the issue of going forward, what we should be doing. I think also that we as social commentators, journalists, those who speak on air, radio and all that, on TV, should be circumspect. What we should avoid is the attempt to impugn the integrity of the decision. Now, if we preach the integrity of the decision to Ghanaians, I think the acceptance of it will be very easy to everybody. So that is another thing we should look at. Coming back to your question, of course, when the president says that, yes, I accept it, I'm bound by it, but I disagree to some extent, it has some way of satisfying the supporters and at the same time satisfying the law and the Supreme Court and the decision that came about. Because if he says that I disagree, then it is an attempt also to tell the supporters that, yes, I didn't necessarily lose the case because it was based on some flaws that purportedly came about as a result of some of the decisions from the judges. So it is a way of satisfying the supporters of the NDC. At the same time, if you accept the decision, then you are upholding the integrity of the court. And that is very key. The moment you uphold the integrity of the court, you know that anytime the court is taking a decision, Ghanaians are likely to accept such a decision. So you see, always upholding the integrity of the court goes to the core of us as a country, at the core of governance. Because, you see, the courts are the final arbiter
of all litigations. And therefore, if we always have to impugn the image of the court and let people disregard the integrity of the court, what it means is that whenever the courts make a decision, people are not going to accept the decision. And so when the president says that, I accept the verdict, it is very key. It is very important for upholding the integrity of the courts. And I'm happy about that. You know, President Akufo-Addo did the same thing in 2013. Even in his case, the decision was 5-4, very close. What it meant was that, as I said earlier, that the judges themselves didn't agree. So that is why we normally say that the law is an ass. Of course, if you look at the donkey, very rigid in some ways. But of course, everybody can turn it to its favor, depending on how you argue your case. And that's why lawyers will normally say that there's no bad case ever, anywhere. Because there's always a means by which you can justify your decision to the courts. And then at the end of the day, it behoves the courts to make a final determination. Okay. And so you can always tell people that, yes, the judges were wrong. But if you don't take that path, and you take the path of accepting the decision and upholding the integrity of the court, that is always the most civilized way to go. And we should thank President Mahama that he made that kind of statement. A statement that has two sides, satisfying the supporters, and at the same time, satisfying the integrity of the judiciary. So I think it was a very important statement from him. Okay. This is always the way we should go.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, when the decision comes out, apart from a review, there's nothing you can do. And after a review, if you still lose, what else can you do? Except maybe to say that, well, my supporters shouldn't agree, we should be on the streets and all that. And that's, that's not the way to go. And that will always be wrong for us as a country. So when he makes that kind of statement, I think that it's a very important one.
Okay, I'll come back to how we should understand where to resolve infractions, because as we well know, the court essentially is affirming its earlier decision that it's not just any kind of infraction that will lead to invalidating a presidential result. But most Reverend, there is a proposal from the Peace Council, and I wonder if something that you would consider in terms of letting your members know, as we all go to church this weekend, what the former president has said. This was a proposal from Mr. Amo. Is that something that you're considering?
Yes, it's very, very important, because even without it, I know the churches would have taken it on board to thank God for what has happened, and then to also pray on our members that we all come along, because the church is made up of all these political supporters. And so if we all come to accept it and pray along with it, then it means that we are healing our wounds together, and we move along. So it's something that we are going to take on board. From, I think, by the close of day today, that statement would come out to all the churches, and then we'll make sure that they all do it. The Adventists will do that tomorrow, and then Sunday, other Christians will also come along to pray and to ask members to follow what has been laid down by the Supreme Court, as well as to appreciate what the former president has said.
Is the Christian Council intending or is as part of your plans to reach out to the former president?
Definitely. You know, we sometimes will not come out publicly to announce what we are doing, but behind the scenes, because they are our members. They are sitting in our pews and listening to us. So individual pastors and church leaders would be approaching, as well as the hierarchy of the Christian bodies would also be doing same. to have discussions, engage them, and to appreciate what they have done so far so that we can move on. For us, our goal is that we can live peacefully as one people so that the development of our nation can continue from where we are, and so that we just don't go back on anything that has to do with our forward march as a nation. And more so, tomorrow, 6th March, marks a very important day in our history as Ghanaians. And that is where we think that it has come at the right time for us to be looking at the way forward that would promote the peace and the development of Ghana, so that generations unborn can come to enjoy and not leave anything that is unsavory for them to come and inherit.
Ms. Amo, I know that you are interested in peace and you have a strategy in reaching out to the parties and followers, but are you also interested as a peace council in the lessons that the Electoral Commission must learn out of this process that we've just witnessed in courts?
Thank you, Mamabi. I think a lot of lessons. I'm sure the commissioner, who is a very good friend, I'm sure I would have taken a lot of notes having sat through the process. I think the first thing that comes to mind, and as a peace council, we are trying to work on is the IPAC mechanism. IPAC, over the years, maybe you are aware, has provided a platform for consensus building, a platform for agreeing on issues that may be difficult, So it is important the IPAC process is quickly revived, and revived in a way that would bring all the parties, on the table without disagreements. I would want to appeal to the political parties, accepting the fact that the electoral commissioner was duly appointed, I think is very, very important. Until that is also addressed, because in your mind, you still have the feeling that, this person was not properly, appointed, etc. I think it is going to affect the way you respond to invitations and how you do your things. I think we've come past that stage. I want to appeal. That is what we have. Let's accept it, embrace it, use the IPAC mechanism, which has proven to be very good for us, and unite this country. Unite this country. That would be the greatest legacy that the political leaders of our time would have to leave for our children and our children's children. I think that if you have a position today, you have the authority to effect some changes. I am not sure we want to leave the position we are holding today and go out to see this country, getting in flames. No, not at all. It shouldn't be our time. Let us use whatever position we have in the political parties today to ensure we mold this country despite its deficiencies. We have deficiencies and it happens all the time. So let us help the Electoral Commission. We've identified some weaknesses. Let us help them to mend up and provide for this country and our governance system the product that we all aspire to see.
Okay.
I think having, let me end and allow others to talk.
But just the final.
We have a country, let's protect peace.
Okay. Just the final one, Professor Safo Kantanka, I know that a lot of you would say that our electoral processes have improved because of court processes over the years. I wonder the kind of reforms that you expect that we would see with this court decision, knowing that not much was said in terms of orders given to the Electoral Commission. Broadly, the court appreciated the fact that Electoral Commission is a constitutional body and it is in their right to do some of the things that they do. For instance, they talked about the errors and said that, you know, they had the right, or the commissioner had the right to correct the mistakes that was made on the day of declaration. So my question really is, what kind of reforms can come out of this court decision?
Well, thank you very much. I think in terms of reforms vis-a-vis the decision of the court yesterday, there isn't much. Because you remember in the course of reading the verdict, the Chief Justice said that there were no complaints about the processes up to the time of voting. So in terms of the voting processes from the police station level up to a certain stage, there were no issues. The issues came about at the time of the declaration, from the strong room to the declaration. So that is where it appears to me as though some people were not vigilant enough to follow the processes to the end. You remember they talked about Dr. Pesa White and co leaving the place, purportedly having been asked by the electoral commissioner to go and speak with President Mahama. So for me, and you remember that just at the time of reading, introductory part of the reading, the Chief Justice said that there was a material difference between this year's petition and the previous one in 2013. Because the previous one concerned a lot of infractions of the law from the time of voting up to declaration and all that. So there's a huge difference. And so for me, as I sit here right now, it will be very difficult for me to pinpoint and say that we need to reform this or that. But I do agree with my Mr. Amo and Dr. Boafo that going forward, we need to engage the IPAC system. You know, the second leg of President Mahama's statement yesterday was the fact that he talked about the issue of even revisiting the issue of how the former electoral commissioner was, in quotes, ousted from office, and how the new one was appointed and the processes. So that was to suggest some wrongdoing, some attempt to use some means to prevent others from winning elections and all that, or she was appointed to favor one particular party. You see, this is where there's a problem. And therefore, going forward, we need the engagement towards 2024. How are we going to see the Electoral Commission? Are people going to still think that the Electoral Commission is there to favor some group as against others? This is what we should be looking at. How do we let people understand that at every point in time, somebody will have to appoint an electoral commissioner? And when we agree that there are laws and there are processes through which electoral commissioners are appointed, and we engage those processes all the time, just like courts making decisions, then I think that we always have a way out. We wouldn't have to go through some turbulent periods in terms of elections and appointments and all that. So I think that going back to what Mr. Amo and Dr. Boafo said, engagement with the IPAC system is really the way to go.
Okay.
And my advice will also be that, you know, parties have to be very vigilant when there are elections. That's all. The game is vigilance. We have been following elections here and there and all that. And there are times it is clear that the agents parties sent to polling stations to man elections and all that, some are not up to the task. And therefore, when it comes to the issue of vigilance, being able to even read and write and understand what is even put down sometimes is a difficulty. So these are some of the things maybe the political parties will have to think about and going forward so that when there are elections, the issues of mistrust can be done away with.
Okay.
You know, it boils down to the issue of trust and mistrust. If you don't trust the system, then you are always likely to reject the outcomes of elections, which is not good for us. So how do we build that trust? And in Ghana's system, as compared with other countries and all that, from the time of Mr. Farijan, the IPAC system is unique. It allows the political parties to have a say about the processes that we put in place before elections. And I think that is key.
Okay.
So I do agree.
All right.
We should go ahead and engage the IPAC system, tighten it, and then move on.
Okay.
And if we do that, I think that there will be no cause for alarm.
Okay. I guess in the future, we can, talk about the IPAC a lot more because we know that there are also a lot of disagreements. Sometimes the parties complain that issues that come to IPAC are not the same as those that we hear outside their engagement. So we will be focusing on IPAC, I guess, in the future, as we soak in this decision that's just been delivered yesterday by the Supreme Court. I want to thank you all for your time, but just before you go, Most Reverend, I know that you took your jab. It's been how many days after that?
It's been 4 days now.
Okay.
I took it on Monday, and I'm still fine. There's nothing wrong with me.
Okay.
And I'll encourage all others to go and take their jobs,
okay.
And it will help all of us as a nation.
Fantastic. Mr. Amo, have you had yours?
Yes. Yeah, I took mine yesterday, and I'm still okay.
Any side effects?
Oh, not. I haven't experienced anything yet.
Okay, sure. Right. Professor Safo Kantanka, have you had yours?
Mama V, I don't belong to the privileged group, so I haven't had mine.
Okay, all right.
But when it gets to my turn, I'll take it.
Okay, all right, great.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I hear the trick, and I'm taking mine today. That's why I asked, any side effect. I hear the trick is
you'll be fine.
After you take it, you have to relax for about 15-20 minutes before you get active. But if possible, just go home and go and sleep.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So, Prof, that's a piece of advice to you, from me to you.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your day and have a very beautiful day.
All right, you too, sir. I thank you all, gentlemen, for your time and for this conversation. Really appreciate it. And that's it in terms of how we're moving forward after that decision that was delivered and the comments we had there from former President John Mahama. Coming up next, we're talking about Ghana Month. How well do you know your region? Name 4 tourist sites in your region. And how many of them have you visited? For most of us, this will be tough. Let's see. I come from the Volta region, Tarisai, Afajato. I haven't been to Afajato. Akosombo Dam is in the Eastern region, right? It's not in the Volta region, is it? Okay. What else? Where have I visited? Oh my God. There's Vli. I haven't been there. Where else? Did you say name 4? Tagwa Falls, I haven't. There's a monkey sanctuary I haven't visited. Oh my God, like what have I done? Well, I have been to other regions though, so I've explored other regions a lot more than I have explored my own Volta region. Well, it's Ghana Month and it's all about exploration. So that's coming up next as we all figure out the places that we visited in our regions.